Yo, what's up guys, it's King Sean here, and in today's video, I will be going over the Commanders' free agents for the 2025 offseason and talk about what free agents I think we should re-sign and what free agents we should probably let walk. So, before we get into today's video, leave a like down below, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And with that out of the way, let's get straight into today's video. Alright, so I want to talk about 5 guys that I think you should really keep your eye on when it comes to guys AP and Co. decide to bring back. And I feel like these 5 guys are super important to pay attention to. And the first player I want to talk about is Bobby Wagner, man. Bobby Wagner is a must re-sign for me, man. He's been incredible for us all year long. He was incredible for us this season. He had a fumble recovery, obviously, versus Tampa in the wildcard round. We needed that turnover, man, because without that, we probably would have lost that game, right? So Bobby made a huge play there. He obviously made the Pro Bowl once again. He will be headed to the Pro Bowl this week, and he made All-Pro team, second team All-Pro team, 10th All-Pro selection of his career. That is just absurd, man. Obviously, future Hall of Famer. Bobby Wagner was absolutely spectacular for us this year, and bringing him back, man, not just because of what he did on the field, because he was still really good on the field. Obviously, he slowed down a little bit, but he still is very instinctual, great communicator, high IQ, stops to run super well. So his play was still really good, but it's what he does off the field as well. He brings guys together. I always go back to post-game Cowboys Week 12. Bobby, in his little media scrum, said to the media that he still believes in this team even after, losing to a 3-7 Cowboys team after a 3-game losing streak, which put a lot of fans' morales and confidence down. I still had some confidence, but I will say that my confidence was lowered, not after losing to the Steelers and Eagles, but after losing to a 3-7 Dallas Cowboys team that was underperforming severely on the season, right? But Bobby said to the media that at the end of the season, when we're on a 4-game win streak or after a 4-game win streak, y'all are going to ask me different questions. He still had so much confidence and belief in the team. And what did we do? We went on a 7-game win streak before obviously facing Philly in the NFC Championship game. So when Bobby speaks, guys, listen, because he has experience. He has been in the position in which we went to this year. Bobby's one of the greats of all time at his respective position, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer in the future and such a good veteran leader, man. He and Jaden have a great brotherhood, man. Like, they love trolling each other, man, especially Jaden. He loves trolling Bobby, but it's amazing, man. It shows you how much they care about each other. And Bobby, I would love to bring him back, man, and having him and Louvu back for at least 1 more year, because you're not going to bring Bobby Wagner back on a 2-year deal, of course. He's like 34 years old at this point, so you're not going to do that. But bringing Bobby back on a 1-year deal, I liked what I saw from Jordan McGee at times this year. He showed some flashes, so he can have 1 more year of learning under Bobby Wagner. And then once Bobby Wagner leaves, maybe McGee can fill his spot. We shall see, but I would absolutely love to bring Bobby Wagner back on a 1-year deal. Next player up is Zach Ertz. I would love it if we brought Zach Ertz back. He said it in his media scrum yesterday that he would love to be back in Washington. Obviously, it's a business, so we'll see what happens. I think we're going to bring Zach Ertz back, though, because, we have bigger needs than tight end. Obviously, tight end, is still, you could say, a need, right? Getting like an explosive tight end. Zach Ertz was awesome this past season, man. Like, he had over 650 yards in the regular season, 7 touchdowns. He had a great game versus Philly in the conference championship, had like 10 or 11 catches, over 100 yards. So I would just bring Zach Ertz back, to be honest with you. I know he's 34. He's going to turn 35 later on this year, but his relationship with Jaden and Kliff is just incredible, man. He fits so well under Kliff Kingsbury's system. And by the way, we're going to talk about Kliff later. He is coming back, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later after we're done talking about free agents we should bring back or we should let walk, right? But Zach Ertz, man, he was incredible for us this year, man. Everything really we could have asked for out of him, man. Such a reliable target for Jaden, especially on like 3rd and 4th downs when we needed to convert. Zach Ertz, he's been great for us all year long, and I would absolutely love it if we bring him back. Now, maybe we decide to go the younger route. Maybe we decide to just make Ben Sinnott our starting tight end next year. But I feel like bringing Zach Ertz back for one more year really gives Ben the opportunity to still learn and develop. And I do expect Ben Sinnott to get more playing time next year, to get more opportunities. But bringing Zach Ertz back, man, would just be so good. Like Ertz said yesterday, he feels like him and Jaden are just scratching the surface at what they can do together. And I feel like bringing him back, man, that would be really, really good. Next player is Dante Fowler Jr. I would definitely re-sign him. Now, I'm not re-signing him as, one of our starting edge rushers. He is not great at setting the edge. You saw it in the Eagles game, in the NFC Championship game, of course. He's not great at setting the edge. He tried to do a spin move to try and get out of the block, and he fell down, and Bobby Wagner bumped into him or tripped over him, right? So he couldn't get to Saquon Barkley in time, and Saquon just went all the way, of course. But he's not great at setting the edge, but he was our best pass rusher this season, right? He was a really solid pass rusher for us, put up 10.5 sacks, and that's 1 sack short of his career high, right? So the second most sacks in a season he's ever had in his entire career, man. So bringing Dante Fowler Jr. back as a rotational edge rusher would be really good. I would argue that he's one of the better rotational edge rushers in the NFL, so keeping him in that rotation would be great. Obviously, once again, don't want him as our straight up or one of our straight up edge rusher starters, because we need a dog at the edge position, right? We need a guy that can not only rush the quarterback but also stop the run, right? Dante Fowler Jr., he's really only great at getting to the quarterback, right? That's why he's so effective on third downs, because obviously you're usually rushing the quarterback on third down. So that's one of the reasons as to why I would love to bring Fowler back. How much will he cost? We'll see, especially after having a 10.5 sack season. His price might have gone a little bit up, but if we're able to retain him on like a 2, maybe 3, but probably a 2-year deal that's relatively team friendly and is good money for him as well, then I would definitely bring Dante Fowler Jr. back, because he would be a great edge rusher to have in your edge rusher rotation. Moving on to the next guy, Jeremy Chinn. I would like him back, but I won't be mad if he walks. That's because I feel like we could upgrade for him, although Jeremy Chinn isn't a bad strong safety. I like him better near the line of scrimmage, and by trading for Marshawn Lattimore, we were able to put him near the line of scrimmage more. Don't think he's like elite in coverage or anything like that, which I don't look for out of Jeremy Chinn. Like, he's not amazing at coverage. He's definitely not the worst in coverage, but he's also not that good in coverage, right? So you could do better than him. However, there were some really good moments or really good games out of Jeremy Chinn this year. The game I remember is the Giants game. He was really good in that game. The second Giants game I'm talking about. He was really good in the Detroit game, had the game-sealing interception. So there were a lot of games where Jeremy Chinn, he showed really nice promise. He was really good this year. And obviously there was times where he didn't look great, like in the Saints game where he had an easy interception, but he pretty much missed the guy. Like, I don't know what he was doing on that play. Y'all know what play I'm talking about probably, but, I think he needs to get better in that area, right? Obviously, he needs to get better in coverage, but I just like him near the line of scrimmage. But yeah, I don't mind bringing Jeremy Chinn back at all. We'll see what his market is. I know Cam Curl got $2 million, not $2 million, sorry, I'm tripping. 2 years, $13 million last year. So that is more than $6 million a year. I think Chinn may get a little bit more than that, maybe like $7 or $8 million a year, right? So if we bring him back on that, on like a 2 or 3 year deal, then I definitely would not mind it at all. Like, I like Jeremy Chinn. I definitely do think he's a solid, strong safety. Is he the greatest strong safety in the NFL? No, obviously not, but he's a really solid, strong safety, and he's definitely a guy that I would like back. But once again, I would not be mad if he decides to walk, because there's going to be other teams that are interested in him, offering him a little bit more money, and he may decide to walk for those prices, right? But, we'll see what happens, but Jeremy Chinn is definitely a guy that I would like back on this team. And then the next player up, which is the final guy of the 5 players I want to talk about before going down the entire list of free agents we have this offseason, Dami Brown. I would like him back, but I wouldn't be mad at all if he walks. He had a great playoffs, but before the playoffs, it was really your typical Dami Brown season, 300 some yards, 1 touchdown. So, not amazing, obviously, kind of like the rest of the seasons where he had like 100 and some yards or 200 yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns, right? So, I would not mind Dami Brown back as a receiver 4, though, because he's a really good blocker. I feel like he's one of the better blocking receivers in the NFL. I think he has a role here in Kliff Kingsbury's offense. He was great for us on wide receiver screens this year, right? In the playoffs, he looked more like a receiver 2 outside of Terry, right? Or on the opposite side of Terry, right? He had a really good game versus the Bucs. He had a touchdown that game. He had a really good game versus the Lions. He had a couple of screen passes. He had the fumble versus the Eagles, which was bad, but he did also have a couple of nice catches in that game, right? So he was really good in the playoffs, but overall, we just haven't gotten enough production out of Dami Brown, which has been disappointing. But if he wants to come back and understands his role here, right, because he's not going to be, at most, he's probably going to be a receiver 3. He's not going to be anything over that, right? I would have him as my receiver 4. If he's our receiver 3, then I wouldn't mind that, but receiver 4 is probably the best spot for him. Like, once again, Dami still has a role here. He's a great blocking receiver, one of the better blocking receivers in the NFL, and he's really good on screen passes, right? So I really do like Dami Brown in those areas. However, he's not the greatest receiver, right? So, if he decides to walk, and yesterday he had a little media scrum, he said to the media that, I wouldn't mind being back, right? But there may be some different options out there for me in free agency, right? So obviously he's going to test the market, see where he's at, and, if none of the offers are appealing to him, and if we want to bring him back, and if he wants to come back, then we might bring him back on like a 1 or 2 year cheap deal for him, right? So we'll see what happens, but Dami Brown is definitely a guy that I would like to bring back to round out our receiver core, maybe as like receiver 4 or at max receiver 3, but probably receiver 4. But if we do not decide to bring him back, then I would not be mad with that at all. And then scrolling through the list of free agents real quick, gonna do rapid fire here. Marcus Mariota, if he wants to come back, then I would definitely bring him back. Great mentor to JD, but I feel like he kind of filled his role here, so he's probably gonna go somewhere else. Plus, he could be like a bridge quarterback somewhere else. He was really good for us when he had to come in, so we'll see what he does, but I do not think that we are going to bring him back. But if we do, then that would be amazing, right? Because he was a great mentor for Jaden. KJ Osborne, I'm not bringing him back. Clelin Ferrell, he can go. Tressway, I would bring Tressway back. Now, we did work out a couple punters over the course of the season. I don't know if that means a whole lot, but if we do not decide to bring Tressway back, then I'm not tripping, right? But Tressway, he's been a really good punter for us his entire career, right? So, it would be nice if we brought him back. I'll say that. It would definitely be nice if we brought him back, but we'll see what they decide to do there. Michael Davis, I'm not bringing him back. Cornelius Lucas, I'm bringing him back. He is an excellent swing tackle. He has been an excellent swing tackle for us over his career in Washington, so definitely a guy I would for sure bring back. Michael Dieter, not bringing him back. Trent Scott, he can be gone. Jameson Crowder, he can be gone. Noah Igbenogany, I think I would like him back as cornerback depth, nothing more than that, right? Not as one of our 3 starting cornerbacks, just as cornerback depth. So if we bring him back as that, cool. If not, then he can walk, right? So, that's the only situation where I kind of want Noah Igbenogany back. Benjamin St-Juste, he can go. Olamide Zaccheaus, he's an interesting one. Like Dami Brown, I think he could be back to round out the receiving core, but he's not going to be like our receiver 3 or anything like that, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if we brought OZ back to round out our receiving core. He was pretty good for us this year. He posted up over 500 yards and I want to say 3 or 4 touchdowns, right? So he had some good moments for us this year for sure. Noah Brown, we may bring him back, but personally, I don't really care if we bring him back or not. And I honestly think that he probably will walk. Nick Bellore, he was a great special teamer for us this year. I would definitely not mind if we brought him back because he was a demon on special teams for us, man. Like, we had one of the best special teams units in the NFL this year, right? And Bellore was a part of that, right? He was a demon in Seattle, and he was a beast for us this year, right? So definitely wouldn't mind if we brought Ballore back. Sheldon Day, he was a really good rotational defensive tackle with us. We'll see if we bring him back or not, but I wouldn't mind if we brought him back. Jeff Driscoll, we'll see if we bring him back, but I doubt it. Jerry McNichols, he can go. Mikal Walker, he can go. Zane Gonzalez, he can probably go. Jalen Holmes, he can go. Austin Cyber, he can go. Chris Rodriguez Jr., I would like him back maybe, for training camp. We'll see if he makes the 53-man roster from there. So I wouldn't mind it back. Kevin Seymour, he can go. Derek Forrest, he can go. John Bates, he's an interesting one. I would definitely bring him back because he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL. And blocking tight ends are super important, right? So John Bates is definitely a guy I would bring back for sure. So that is really it for all of our free agents. And then real quick before I end off today's video, it's just been announced that Kliff Kingsbury will not interview for the Saints' job and will come back to Washington for one more year, which is great news to hear. Jordan Schultz was on it first, and it doesn't surprise me, right? Like, once the Bears hired Ben Johnson, I was like, oh yeah, Kliff is coming back. He's not taking that Saints job, man. No one wants the Saints job. Like, at this point, it's between Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, and I've even been hearing that the relationship between Mike McCarthy and the Saints, like the interview process has not been great, right? Like, no one wants to take that Saints job. It's a horrible job. They're in cap space hell. They're an aging roster. Like, nobody wants that job. And I'm not surprised that Kliff did not take it. And he's coming back here, which is awesome, man. Like, he and Jaden can continue to build what they got. Obviously, we're going to add a whole ton of help for Jaden this offseason. We're probably going to get another receiver or two for him. Hopefully upgrade at running back and upgrade our O-line as well, right? So Kliff being back, man, to have one more season with Jaden, same play caller, and obviously a guy under Kliff Kingsbury because he's probably gone next year, right? I am not going to be surprised when Kliff takes a head coaching job next year. So we're probably going to groom someone under Kliff Kingsbury to be ready for when he does leave. I expect that guy to probably be Brian Johnson or maybe Tavita Pritchard or maybe David Blau. We shall see. But whoever it is, they'll be ready to take Kliff's job, the OC job, once Kliff eventually leaves. But it's just great to have Kliff back for at least one more season so that he and Jaden and the rest of the offense can continue to build what they got going on. So that is it for today's video. Hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like down below, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Comment down below what free agents you guys would let walk or bring back. And other than that, it's been King Sean, and I'm out. Peace.